Guy and a bear. This looks gay. Oh. I'm gonna need some money. Original WoW, Vanilla WoW, Old School WoW, whatever you want to call it, often regarded now as better WoW, the bestest, so much better than all the changes Blizzard has made. But was it? Really? How good was Vanilla WoW compared to now? Would it still be the best game on the planet? Would it still have the 10 million subscribers? Let's don those rose-tinted goggles. I came from another MMO called Neocron, which was still living in the pre-WoW MMO world of being a hardcore, play till you die, being offline is for wimps style of gaming. Look at the competition that was around for Blizzard at the time WoW launched. EverQuest, RuneScape, all set inside that ever so familiar fantasy magic wielding world. The first big innovation that WoW brought in was to no longer punish you harder than a military boot camp when you died. Other games took XP, items, your firstborn for dying. It was this aspect of the game that made a lot of my friends ignore WoW, for being pussy and lame. I want to cover PvP and raiding in a different video, so we'll start with the leveling. Logging in was the most amazing experience I have ever had in any game ever. Maybe Half-Life 2 comes close, but WoW still wins. Compared to anything I had seen before, it blew me away. The screenshots of WoW looked like some kiddie cartoon, like where are the fucking tanks and machine guns? It immediately put me off. But then I got a beta key, logged in, and well, it's 7 years later. Such a rich and amazing world. The soundtrack, equally incredible, and so on, and then you started to play. The leveling started off well. Immediately identifiable quest givers with clear explanations of what the hell to do. Not that some noobs didn't need Thoughtbot every 2 seconds. This was epic to me, who had previously done a ton of research early in MMOs to figure out how the hell do I get started. It wasn't hard to get the wheels on the track with WoW. Even back then and in general was all good. Until your second zone. This is where it kind of fell apart. Notably, your first zone was properly paced and gave reasonable XP. After that though, oh boy. There was never enough quests to reach the appropriate levels for the next zone. Yeah. It was one of those kinds of grinds. Compare that today where you can do a quarter of the quests and out-level your zone. The zones were so random in their questing, it was infuriating. Allow me to share with you 2 of the most noticeable areas that questing was hell. Firstly, Rafi Highlands. The quest banding in this zone was around 8 levels. There was enough quest XP for 2, maybe 3 at best. You would enter the zone around level 30, pick up 6 or 7 quests, and then be unable to get any more till 33, even though the quest that you got gave you half a level at best. The idea was to send you to the other zones and explore them. However, even though you would do all that, you would still be taunted endlessly by that goddamn silver quest giver. The sweet, sweet moment when you dinged, yes, I got 32. Surely now that damn NPC will give me the quest. The only solution was to grind it out on mobs. A lot. But more to Arathi specifically, and the damn Stromgarde quests. To put this in context, you could only get a mount, the slow one, at level 40, so you were moving on foot for a long time. Bear in mind that the average leveling time to 60 was a couple of months with regular play. Getting from Hammerfall to Stromgarde on foot was around 10 minutes running each way. Not including the goddamn dinosaurs and spiders aggroing your ass every step of the way. 4 times you had to do this run to finish the quests, and realistically you couldn't even skip them as they gave so much XP. Stranglethorn Veil was the next most frustrating zone. One zone that covered 10 freaking levels of questing. The always hilarious Nessingwary Safari quest bringing in the early 30s, then jumping a whole bunch to level 35 in the mid-towns, all the way to 40 plus near Booty Bay. There were even level 42 and a random level 50 quest to be had here, but nowhere near that much XP rewarded. It was not uncommon to spend hours whacking away at red quest mobs one at a time for that ever so precious experience. It was clear that the early game wasn't complete. End zones were in fact incomplete. Winter Spring was the most finished, but even that was horrifically designed around a single quest hub, which had travel quests spanning the entire game world. Silithus, in fact, just empty, to later be redone in a patch. The saving grace was the world. It was amazing and gripped you by the nuts and never let go, which is lucky because if there were more finished games equally looking this good, I can't imagine anybody sticking it out to the end. As you can imagine though, alts were around, but the rarity in comparison to today. Let's discuss questing itself. On the good side, the questing actually wasn't too bad, especially the larger scale quest lines, which realistically had only one flaw. They were really hard to find. It's kind of like a retarded treasure hunt, where you want people to find your treasure, but still make it Indiana Jones hard to do. Rafi Highlands is another example of this. The Princess Trapped. It's an epic questline involving the ultimate release of a seemingly innocent princess named Misriel, and a lovely finale of kicking her ass back to the depths as she's actually a total bitch. Many people never even found this, or completed it, as the level 30 quest had, well, let's just say it, it was a level 37 boss at the end of it. Kind of unfair, but it was a nice idea. The main problem with questing wouldn't be changed until the Burning Crusade. They were all over the damn place. Random NPC dudes dotted around the zones with one quest and no way of knowing they were there unless you got told. It was clear Blizzard was proud of their world and wanted you to see it all. So very often you would get a quest to go and visit some other zone about 40 minutes away just to be told thanks. I needed that note. And no further quests or fucks were given by your presence. I believe this is a good point to relive the idea of class quests, especially after the recent Warlock questline. Lots of people know that hunters and priests had their own class quests starting from Molten Core, but they were not the only ones. My favourites were the warrior class quests. They were the shit. Warriors got class quests every 10 levels, either rewarding some armour or a new spell. They were stupidly hard and had a buttload of travelling. My absolute favourite was the quest to get your Berserker stance. That's right, it wasn't just on the trainer. The Berserker quest made me actually travel to the Barrens, which again promotes not only the idea of exploring, but the opposite faction also had an entire world to themselves that you could go and see. Off the coast was Frey Island, only accessible by swimming along the coast. It truly felt as though you were a powerful warrior on your way to prove your worth. It's just a pirate island now, after it was declared obsolete, which is a great sadness to me, as it gave my class so much more flavour than just another melee. Blizzard had no idea that they had just created the best game ever made, and if you thought Diablo 3 or SimCity or hell, even an instance cannot be launched right now was a problem, oh boy did you miss out on some crazy shit. Blizz expected the game to peak around 400,000 players in the first year. That happened in 4 weeks, and the servers went into complete meltdown. They had to periodically stop selling the game so it would even stay alive. But for those of us already inside, we had some interesting moments. One memorable moment that stands out for me was being stuck on a griffin for 25 minutes. Stuck in place, unable to move, with an ever-increasing amount of people lining up next to me. No matter what you did, your character would just sit floating there. Trapped in instances, quest NPCs not talking to you for tens of minutes at a time. It was a regular occurrence for at least 12 months, not the weeks we expect now. Incredibly motivated and ambitious, but understaffed and underprepared. It didn't stop Blizz from pushing through all those nightmares to continue with what was clearly becoming something infinitely larger than they could have ever dreamed. This led to the greatest and most disastrous event in Blizzard's WoW history. But remember, Blizzard had swag now. They could hire more people.
With an understaffed development team, and I remember some of the first people to join Team 2 were Team 2.
He brought in to be the senior producer on...
Ambition could be a dangerous thing, especially when you know the end result could be spectacular and be memorable. The return of the old god Cthulhu and the opening of Ahn'Qiraj. As mentioned, Silithus was a wasteland of epic proportions. Blizzard also noticed that a vast number of the population was unable to join the raiding experience, and as such needed other content to satisfy them. Yep, this was it. The first time the daily quest and the 5-man repeatable content ever really sort of turned its head. Later joined by the item quest for the aptly named tier 0.5. But that's another story. Silithus needed updating. We needed a new raid. Players were burning through Blackwing Lair and hungry for more. Zul'Gurub had been a huge highlight with 20-man content, allowing new players a route into raiding, and the current raiders to do more interesting content outside of the main raid flow. So the Unstoppable devs began to set the foundations of what would be an exciting and invigorating patch. The premise was simple. Everyone in the game can contribute in some fashion. Just farm some basic minerals, some herbs, some cloths, and give them to the war effort NPCs, fueling the fire to open the doors of the Karaji Temple. Another interesting twist to how vanilla works, compared to now, is that the raid content was implemented well into the game, long before anyone could actually enter it. I remember the day well. The message that the war effort was complete. I was a lowly MC raider on the Alakir realm. By today's standards, it was a utopia of a realm with a wealth of highly progressed PvE guilds and also renowned for its high-end PvP players. You might remember classic vanilla videos from players such as Zalgradis of the Alliance and Grim of the Horde, both Alakir players. I was in good company, and we were going to be amongst the first to witness the opening event in the entire world. The time arrived. Those powerful enough to have completed the quest stood ready at the gong. Oh well, so I'm told. The event was a total disaster for populated realms. Getting to Silithus was a giant pain in the ass in the first place. Flights from Stormwind to Menethil Harbour, wait for the boat, go to Theramore, fly down to Tanaris, and then mount your ass up and ride through Ungoro. If you hadn't managed to get the new flight points, that is. Needless to say, I made it as far as Theramore before all of Kalimdor bugged out, and threw players back to Menethil Harbour repeatedly. There were hundreds of people on the boat. It seemed that Silithus had been the only relatively stable area of the entire continent, with players already inside able to sort of stay connected, but even they were lagging so bad it was impossible to make out what the fuck was going on. The gates opened, random monsters appearing, disappearing, lagging, shooting across the world. What made it worse was that the brave defenders of the realm, those few hundred who had cleared the Blackwing Lair and protect us from these behemoths, had no interest in the event itself and barrel rolled their way past everything into the raid instance, leaving the noobs, including me after the initial rush settled down, to face these raid bosses on our own. It wasn't pretty. In fact, it was a diabolical mess that pretty much ruined the idea of server-wide events ever happening again. Maybe in Titan. Maybe. I was able to see the whole event properly on a less populated realm later that year, and let me tell you, it fucking rocked. I want it again. It's a shame that moments like this really let it down. I mean, shit, this was vanilla! It was vanilla, for God's sake. Surely now we can handle this kind of stuff. But maybe not. We've seen players banned for bringing too many people to one zone. And we look at Undasta and we kind of worry about what could happen here. It's a crying shame. It really is. You know, I came into this video expecting to rag on vanilla and really kick it in the teeth, but it hasn't worked out that way, and I'm kind of happy about that. I was thinking about the recent MMOs. Look at Aeon and Conan. They had much worse problems than what World of Warcraft had, with much fewer players. At least WoW was able to stay alive, and Blizzard never really let it die, even in vanilla with the sudden zerg of players. Pretty cool. I'm really looking forward to doing the PvE and the PvP versions of this video, which should be coming out very shortly. But in the meantime, check out my other big videos. You can click them in the background now. I hope you enjoyed this.